Jagrativ, Jai Masters. If you come here, it's because you've realized that life can be much more beautiful than we tend to make it for ourselves. If what you believe at this stage of your growth, of your life on earth, is that unless you do it, it's not going to happen, and you better figure out what you want and what you don't want, and you better make what you want happen, you better make sure what you don't want doesn't happen, then you're not going to like this talk. Because at some point in your life, hopefully, you realize, wait a minute, what is this I who's saying all this, who's doing all this? What is my relationship to that part of my being? And what you're going to find out, if you look at it carefully, and we'll do it very quickly because we've done it many times, is that if you talk like that inside, if that's what your mind talks like, then you're not okay. Why would you be trying to figure out how to be okay if you were okay? That's where spirituality starts. That's the crossover point. If you're not okay, you're going to try to figure out how to be okay. And the path becomes very straightforward. I'm not okay. What do I need to do or not do to be okay? What does everybody else need to do or not do so that I'm okay? What do my dreams need to look like? What am I missing? How do I get it? That's your path. That's it. And it's going to drive you outside. And there's nothing wrong with that. Good luck. Those who have wised up have realized there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't work. It seems like it's working if you get what you want and if you avoid what you don't want. During those times, hey, neat stuff. But it doesn't stay very long, does it? Certainly not any prolonged period of time. And what you're going to find out is that the only way to really be okay is to find out why you're not okay. That's sort of like if I eat something, and I've been known to do it, and it doesn't feel so good, he thinks about what he can eat next that will make him feel better. Well, that's not quite the answer. The answer is stop eating what makes you not feel well, and you won't have these issues. In other words, the Buddhists say work at the root, work at the core. So the core is not what do I do in order to be okay. The real core question of spirituality is, why am I not okay? Is that how I was made, not okay? All right? And now I have to figure out how to be okay? That's like saying you were born sick. I mean, sometimes it happens, but for 99% of anyone who ever walked this earth, you got quite a system going on here. An immune system and all kinds of stuff taking care of itself. It does pretty good, doesn't it? So if I'm sick, fine, I need to do something about that. I don't sit there and adjust my life to being sick unless I have to. But that's a small percentage. I know it looks like a lot. We got hospitals all over the place. 99% of the people are not in the hospital. And it's probably much more than 99% because the bodies are supposed to be healthy. They were made to be healthy. I know it's difficult with all that goes on around here to think that, but the truth of the matter is, I don't know the exact number. I've heard different numbers, give or take 1 trillion. There's something like 24 trillion cells within your body. Every one of you. That's a big number. 24 trillion cells, and they have one goal: make you well. Create a house for you, the consciousness, to live in that is well, that can go about its business. So it doesn't have to spend all of its time, which some people do, dealing with lack of health. Most people do not do that. So you have this system that is supposed to be healthy. It is the same thing with your heart. It is the same thing with your mind. They are meant to be healthy. They were built to be healthy. There's systems within both your heart, your mind, and your body that are meant to take care of this stuff. And within reason, unless you blow it, which we do with our bodies all the time. We drug them, we drink them to death, we eat things we shouldn't. Here, take this. You 24 trillion cells. Let's see you handle this. Oh my God. Help. She's at it again. So it's like, it wouldn't be terrible. And I'm not here to teach you how to live your life in any way, shape, or form. But if you kind of woke up in the morning and said, hi to your 24 trillion cells, thanks When's the last time you thanked them? They're living organisms. One of the greatest things I learned many years ago, I learned a word. It was called apoptosis. Apoptosis. It means that if one of those cells, one of those 24 trillion cells within your body is not doing well and is hampering the well-being of its brothers and sisters around it, it drops out. Willfully, it literally does that. It commits suicide and drops out of the system to leave room for a healthier cell. Wow. Did you know that? They're doing that all the time. When did you say thank you? That's what it means to wake up. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. I understand you can put makeup on or do something so that the lines don't show up and so on. Right? But really, man. And so you wake up and you realize you're not the doer. That's a very spiritual concept, but it happens to be the truth. You're not the doer. If these 24 trillion things are not doing their thing and creating health, then your life is determined by what happens after that. It's the same thing with your heart. And that's really the purpose of this talk, because people don't know that. You know you have an immune system. You know that it tries, especially after COVID, right? We understand it tries to fight off foreign bodies and things that do it. Your mind has a system that is way beyond that, and your heart has a system that is way beyond that, and you don't know that. And that's what we're going to talk about. That basically, either you're sitting here accepting the state of your being, which hopefully outwardly it's fairly healthy, but inwardly not so much so. A lot of worries, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension. That's kind of like how it is nowadays, right? Not just nowadays. It's always been that way. I mean, Buddha was 500 BC. Buddha took a look out, walked out of the palace. He was a prince, walked out of the palace, looked at humanity, and he said, wow, they're all suffering. Rich people are suffering, women are suffering, men are suffering, young people are suffering, they want to be older, old people are suffering, they want to be younger, married people are suffering, not married people are suffering. It's like, wow, there's a lot of suffering going on. So Buddha noticed that. Maybe you've noticed that. There's a lot of suffering going on in there. And he sat down, literally sat down, and meditated for a long time. And he came back and he told the people he knew, the other ones that were on this journey, and he said, I have figured out the cause of suffering. I have found the root cause of all suffering. All suffering. Old age, youth, sickness, wealth, poverty, every single divorces, marriages that don't work, every single thing. I have found the root cause of all suffering. Did you know that's what he said? That's pretty intense, isn't it? Wow. He either has got a big ego problem or he figures something out, all right? If you figure out the cause of all suffering, and not just all suffering now, all suffering that ever was, all of human suffering and all suffering that will ever be. And he did it in just 4 noble truths. First, all of life is suffering. Some people think, hey, well, that's a negative, dude. No. Come on. You're working hard not to suffer. How's that? You think you're doing great if you're happy, got some happiness, you met somebody you like and doing great. But you're still worried you're going to lose them. You're still worried you're going to say something wrong, aren't you? Still worried that something's going to happen that doesn't work out so good. You're suffering. That is suffering. Let's define for a moment what non-suffering is. Ecstasy. Nirvana. I'm in a state of complete joy every single moment of my existence. If I breathe in, I feel ecstasy pouring through my being. If I breathe out, I feel it shedding. There, that's not suffering. And every single one of you are capable of that state. The fact that you would settle for suffering but trying to do something about it to make it a little bit easier to live with yourself, no. That's why you came out here. We're going to have a serious talk. All right? Buddha's second noble truth. I found the cause of suffering, and he said the cause of suffering is desire. I prefer the word preference, and the third Zen patriarch liked it also, so I'm okay. The cause of suffering is preference. That's a little milder than desire. You all think desire is like lust and greed. But what is a desire but a preference? Desire is a strong preference. Well, why in the world would he come back and say that the cause of all suffering is preference? Because it is. I can tell you right now, if you go out and you have a brand new car and it got scratched, somebody opened the door, their door, and it hit your car and it made a scratch. Does that bother you? Say yes. Okay? What if you didn't have a preference whether there is that scratch in the car or not? Would it bother you? Let me do a little slower. What if it was the car next to you that got the scratch and you didn't? You doing okay? Okay. It's all about preference. It's all about preference. If you have a preference, you are going to suffer. Now, I'm not telling you to get rid of preferences. We can discuss deeper. It's not about renunciation, not about moving off to the woods somewhere. It's just basically saying, let's just be logical. Let's be honest with each other. If you don't have a preference about something, you are not going to suffer about it. If you do have a preference about it, you stand a good chance of suffering about it. Why? Because your preference didn't take place. Well, what about old age? If I don't mind getting old, I don't suffer. In fact, if I like getting old, it's fun. I'm sorry. I know it's impossible to think we could be like that. You get old, you get varicose veins, you bend over a little bit. If you don't care, if it doesn't bother you, if you don't prefer to be young as opposed to old, you're not going to suffer. I won't push it too hard, and this is hard to digest, but do you see how right he was? That is the cause of all suffering, is preference. And the third Zen patriarch, he went to where I don't want to go with you. He wrote probably the deepest, most famous spiritual line ever written. Many of you have heard Ram Dass. Back in the 70s, he used to hand out a little pamphlet. It was brownish in color. It was very thin. It was only 20 pages or something like that. And it was the Treatise on Faith Mind by the third Zen patriarch. It was so beautiful. They introduced us to that. And the first line of that said, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." In other words, not only do preferences create suffering, and they do. I'm not telling you to get rid of them. We can talk about it, but there's no question that preferences cause suffering. And now we're sitting here saying not only do preferences cause suffering, but you know what that the Zen Buddhists meant by the great way? Enlightenment. The highest state, the ecstasy I just talked about, nirvana. That way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Of course it's not. So preferences both cause suffering and bind you because you look out of the world and you don't see the world. I hope you're listening. I know it's hard. You do not see the world. You see whether it matches your preferences or doesn't. You see who you like and who you don't like. You see who you love and who you don't love. You see whether you like what they said or don't like what they said, whether you agree with what I said or don't agree with what I said. You have a built-in preference system. And when you look out into the world, you judge. Christ himself said, "Judge not that ye shall not be judged." The Buddhist tradition teaches to end the burdensome practice of judging. It all comes because your mind, which we're going to go back to the health of mind, your mind has created a preference system. Your relationship with your mind is very close, in case you didn't know that. The closest relationship you have in your life is the one with your mind. It says jump, you jump. It says leave, you leave. Doesn't it? I don't want to be here. I leave. I like it here. You say, oh, I like him. Oh, I like him a lot. You marry him. You marry him, and the mind says, I don't know. I think I did too fast. You leave. Your relationship with your mind is the closest relationship you have. And the only reason you have a relationship with somebody else is because your mind says you could. You gave it permission. Did you ever change your mind? You just change your mind. Your whole life changes, doesn't it? No, I don't really like this anymore. I don't want to live here anymore. Like this weather better, like that weather, etc. Just please understand, you have a mind. And the mind has preferences. And then it looks out into the world and it tries to get its preferences. Isn't that a simple explanation of humanity? Looks out of the world and tries to get what it wants and avoid what it doesn't want. That's all based on preferences. So basically, Buddha was very straightforward. His third noble truth was to end suffering and preference. Buddha's as deep as they got. He was a fully enlightened master, went to the highest level, and he taught this to everybody. Basically, let's talk about this. We talked about the fact that generally what's going on with a normal person's life is they're trying to get what they want and avoid what they don't want. I like to ask the following question. How did you decide what you want? I dare you to question that. How did you decide who you like? How did you decide what you want? What happened is, let's start with mind. I said to you before that the body has a natural system that tries to keep it healthy. So does your mind. Your mind has a system that tries to make it as clear, as open, as happy, as healthy as it can possibly be. It doesn't seem like that, does it? It seems like my mind is always bothering me and doing all kinds of stuff. So what's the difference? If you don't treat your body properly, if you eat things you shouldn't, if you drug yourself, if you do all kinds of things, your poor body's trying. It's always trying. It will never stop trying. That's why you feel pain. It messages to you. Don't do that. Your mind is exactly the same. Your mind naturally is very healthy. Isn't that nice to know? You were not born with a broken mind. Your mind is meant to be healthy. What does that mean? Happy. Always healthy. Always positive. Always enthused, excited to go to work every single day, excited to fix things, excited to better things, excited to help wherever it can. That is your natural mind. That is everyone's natural mind. That is the natural mind. That is its state. Well, why is it the way it is, and why does it behave the way it does? Because events have happened to you in your life, and you means the generic you, each person. Events have happened to you in your life, and when they happen, they weren't comfortable. Just like things can happen to your body that are not comfortable. I like to think of sports. It's not always so much fun. You block a volleyball spike. Those people know how to spike. You get black and blue marks all over your hand. And what do? You keep playing. Why? Because you handled it. Was it comfortable? No. Did you care? No. You didn't have a preference to not feel discomfort. And by the way, when it's all said and done, you have to learn how to not have a preference about not feeling discomfort. I mean, you should do everything you can to take care of yourself, but there's going to be discomfort. Has anyone noticed? There's going to be discomfort. There are going to be things that happen that are not comfortable when you experience them. The question becomes, what do you do about that? And this is where you come to understand the nature of mind. It comes in, you experience it, and it stops. You block the thing. It hurts. It stings. Somebody says something you didn't like it. They don't keep standing there. I don't like you. 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 They just said it once. I really don't like you. And then they walk away. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. Things happen. I don't want to pick a bunch of examples because you'll all get up and walk out. It'll hit something, bound to, isn't it? So basically things happen and they're not so comfortable when they come in. The question is, what do you do about that? Because it's not your responsibility or under your control, everything that happens. It's not. The world's a big place. I talked about 24 trillion cells in your body. Thank God there's 2 trillion galaxies, and every galaxy has 300 billion stars. And you're this tiny little planet. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. You're this tiny little planet spinning around one of the stars. And you're having problems with what? So basically things happen. They're not your control. Things happen. And then they come in and you experience them through the gift of mind. That's the first thing your mind provides to you, is the ability to experience this world. You're not in this world. Your consciousness here observing what's coming in from the outside. You are not looking out through your eyes. You're not. Your photosensitive eyes are picking up the reflected light off my body, off this room, and it's coming in through your sensors and going through your optical nerve and repainting itself inside your mind. You're looking in there. I could bring any scientist, any health scientist, any doctor, anybody, and they could tell you that's not yoga, that's the truth. So you're in here, the consciousness, the awareness of being, looking at the rendering, like a flat screen TV, looking at the rendering of what came in through your senses. And it doesn't always feel good. The Buddhists say everything has this nature. A rattlesnake coming up and rattling next to you is very different than a butterfly landing on your arm. That's just the nature of things. But the rattlesnake will crawl away and the butterfly will fly away. It's just an experience that you have. So things can come in, they can feel different. People can say things and their tone reminded you what your ex talked like. That's not the question. That's fine. Now what happens? What do you do with that? What your natural thing to do is to protect yourself. You feel you need to protect yourself from something that is not comfortable to you. So what you do inside is you do the same things you do outside. fight, push away, resist. You resist that feeling. You resist that mental experience. And when you do that, Sigmund, come in and tell them, you suppress it. It doesn't have to be suppression or repression. I go much lighter than that. I call it resistance. What he meant, what the psychology talked about suppression, repression, that's heavy-duty stuff. I'm telling you, if you didn't like the way the person's driving in front of you, you resist. You get upset. That's what that means. It didn't come in right, and instead of letting it go, sorry, I have to use that word in my talks, instead of letting it go through, it will go through. The driver's going to turn the corner next block, but you didn't handle the discomfort. Back to preference, you prefer to not have that driver in front of you, okay? And so you caused all this commotion inside. Fine. I don't even care about that. What I care about is, do you keep it or do you let it go? Can you let it pass through? It's not going to stay. Nothing stays. It's all a motion picture. Every moment is passing by. So if the moment that passed by didn't feel so good, don't worry. Toot, toot. It's going bye-bye. Like I said, the person says something, the person had a bad day, this happens, that happens. You know, your lover comes home and they had a bad day, they don't even say hello, they just go right to their room. It's just an experience. It's okay that there was a preference that he or she stopped and kissed you and said they love you, that would have been much nicer. That's okay. It's okay. You can have that little preference. The question is, what do you do about the fact that your preference made it not feel good? Let's say you weren't in a good mood and you didn't want to say nothing to that guy or gal, and they happen to walk in and walk straight through. Thank God, I don't want to talk to them anyway. It's all a question of preference. Anything you feel inside is a question of preference. The event happened. The question is, did you have a preconceived notion about that event? Did you have a preference? And if you do, I'm telling you, Buddha's right. You're going to feel some stuff. Fine. I'm not taking that away from you. You got a human side in there. There's going to be some stuff like that. Now the question is, what do you do about it? I really would like to talk to you about that. It's going to come in without you paying attention, unless you get centered and be clear. That's what meditation's about, and mantras and stuff like that. Staying conscious inside, to be conscious enough to say, it didn't feel good, so I'm going to let it go. Let it go. Don't keep it. The example I always use, which is very strong, is you go out to eat at a restaurant, and it doesn't always work out so good. You don't always feel real good. It can cause some disturbance. You can get sick. It can be bad food. What do? You just go about your business and it passes through. No, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for a doggy bag. I'm going to come home and take everything that ever made me really sick and store it in the sick room. And then every morning, I'm going to go in and take a little scoop to remember how bad it made me feel. That's what you do when somebody says something you don't like, when somebody does something you don't like. I'm going to remember this. I will remember what you did for the rest of my life. That's right, you will, right? You got it with your parents. You got it with your first boyfriend. You got it with your ex. You didn't let that stuff go, did you? You kept it inside. You don't have to do that. That is the essence of spirituality. It's as simple as I can say it. There's nothing inside of you that is keeping it inside of you except you. There is nothing keeping it inside of you except your will. You have a power. It's called will. When you don't like it and don't want to experience it fully, you push it away. When you push it away, it stays. It's just that simple. You push it away, it's still there. It's going to come back up numerous times. Things are going to remind you of it, even 20 years later, 30 years later. Please listen. It's this simple. Spirituality is this simple. It's not complicated. Don't do that. Don't do what? I didn't say don't have preferences. I don't want you to play with that. I want you to understand the result, the reaction of your preferences, that you then don't feel good because it didn't match. If it matches, you feel great. If you get what you want, you love it. If you don't get what you want, you don't like it. If you get what you don't want, you sure don't like it. And if you don't get what you don't want, you feel relief. Oh, thank God. All right? It's just your preferences mixing with reality. That's all you're dealing with in there. And so I'm saying if it doesn't feel so good, you have the right to not resist it. You have the right to learn to say, fine, into every life some rain will fall. This was a little drizzle. And so it comes through. Do I want to carry this for the rest of my life? Do I want to not like that person because of what they said? Am I unable to look somebody in the eyes because I didn't like something that happened once, 10 years ago? Go back to your high school reunion and see whether this is true. See whether 20 years later, 30 years later, I don't care. You see this person that you had something going with or didn't have something going with, and you see what happens inside of you. because it's coming back up, isn't it? And it'll come back up on your deathbed too. It doesn't go away unless you let it go. It stays inside. Now, does psychology agree with me? All of psychology exists because you're pushing that stuff away. So it is that act of resistance that does that. Now, I said to you that the mind tries to be healthy. It is not healthy to store this thing inside of you. I'll ask you a simple question. It's a multiple choice question. If you store every single thing that bothered you inside of you for your entire life, this is how you'll be. Happy inside, bothered inside. If you're collecting bothers, you're going to be bothered. Something will remind you, something will happen. The mind does not want you doing that. The actual pure mind. It doesn't want you storing all this garbage inside of you. So what does it do? Every chance it gets, it tries to push it up. That's what's going on. That's why that voice inside your head is so hard to live with. Because it's trying to release the garbage you stored in there, and that was not good garbage. Somebody said something to you when you were young. You'll never succeed at anything. You're a complete failure. I don't even know why you'd bother trying. Unfortunately, that might be your mother or father. We don't all have good ones. Basically, that bothered you. It left impressions on you. You didn't sit there and say, okay, there's something wrong with you, parent. You shouldn't be talking to a kid that way. You weren't conscious enough, right? You should have said that. You should have said the same thing to anybody who wasn't together and said things that bothered you. Okay, fine. You don't have your act together. I'm not keeping this inside. But you did keep it inside. And now it comes up all the time. That voice keeps talking inside your head. You can't succeed. You're nothing. You're no good. No one could really love you. How can anybody really love you? You're not attractive. The mind is trying to push out what you've stored in there. That's why it says what it says. It's trying to push this stuff out. By the time you store all this stuff inside of you, and you couldn't handle it when it happened, you don't want it to come back up. And so what you do is build a place inside of you, a tiny little place. It's bad enough that there's a whole universe with 2 trillion galaxies that all have hundreds of billions of stars each, and you're on this tiny planet spinning around one star. That's how small. Wait till you see how small you made your life. You built a place inside your head that tries to avoid all this stuff that's coming up. It's called your self-concept. This is how I think of myself. This is what I like, this is what I don't like. And I sure don't like you who said something to me in high school. So I ain't going to a reunion. I ain't doing nothing, right? I'll find out before I go to the reunion. Is so-and-so coming? I'll call everyone I know. And you have to live with this stuff because you tried to build a place inside that protects you from yourself. That is what you're protecting yourself from. That person that said something to you 20 years ago, they probably don't even remember. And that's bad, isn't it? That's terrible. You don't even remember what you said to me? You shouldn't remember what they said to you. And so you learn to let go. You learn to help your mind, just like you help your body be healthy. If that's the problem, and it is the problem, and it is the only problem, that you stored this stuff inside of you, and now your mind's trying to release it, and so you're constantly facing these problems that you weren't able to handle before, and things are reminding you of it. And so that goes for your mind. It also goes for your heart. The natural state of your heart is one of complete love all the time for everything and everybody. That's your natural state. The heart is made of love. The heart is this open, beautiful thing that expresses inspiration and love and everything. But can't something happen that hurts the heart? Yes. Why? Because we have preferences. We didn't like that somebody said this or somebody left us. It's okay. It's understandable. It hurts. The question is, are you going to store it? Bad enough you store the stuff in your mind. You store the stuff in your heart? You store every pain that you ever felt in your heart inside of you because you're doing it in the name of, I don't want to feel this and it shouldn't have happened. You just resisted it. It stays inside and it will come back up. You look at somebody, the pain comes back. What's that telling you? That's not the way to live. That's not the way to live. You are not to store the stuff inside of you. I didn't say don't have preference. That's hard. Eventually you'll get there, but we'll talk about that. I don't want you fighting with that. But the fact that the preference caused this bad feeling, I don't like what you said. There. I don't like what you said. Like is a preference. So basically you're going to see that this resistance that you're doing inside, and you know you do it. You know you do it. It's not like you don't understand what I'm talking about. If something doesn't feel right, you resist it. Guess what a yogi does? If something doesn't feel right, they let it go. Now the question becomes how? How do you do that? That's what all your teachings are about. That's what an affirmation is. What's an affirmation? This doesn't feel good. I love it. I'd like you to take that one, all right? I love it. I love not feeling good. I love not feeling good. How about you? Isn't it fun to not feel good? Isn't it fun to feel insulted? That's called affirmation. You're going to understand every time you have a negative thought, replace it with a positive one. Why? Because positive is more beautiful. Positive is more open. Positive gives you the chance to let something go instead of resisting it. The one thing I want you to get from this talk, if you are resisting what happened, not, okay, you're trying to work in the future, that's fine. But if it already happened, no one has ever undone what happened. It happened. You only have two choices when it happened. I was going to say, I don't like being this tough with you. I do like being this tough with you. Let's get down to why you're suffering and stop this. When something happens, you only have two choices. Accept it or resist it. You're either resisting it or you're accepting it. Most of what happens, you don't even know you're accepting because there was no tendency to resist. It just passes right through. Drive by a tree, cloud goes by, people you don't know were talking. Okay? But if people you know are talking, that's a different story. Because you know they're talking about you, right? So you just get to the point where you realize something happened. I experienced it, came in through my eyes, it entered my mind. I have a choice, accept or resist. You don't think you have a choice because it happens so quick. You feel you have no control over it. Bam, you resist. Bam, you suppress it. You push it down. That's what meditation's about. That's what yoga's about. That's what the entire path is about, is becoming conscious enough to where you see resistance does not work. It does work in the sense you don't feel it fully. You've kept it away from you. That's what you did. I don't want it coming all the way in. So you push it away. But then it stays there, and it makes your mind sick. And you have a lot of trouble. It wasn't worth it. It's never worth it. Resistance is never, ever worth it. Never. It didn't change anything. It just made it last longer. And you're the one who resisted it. So if you want to have a happy life, and you want to be whole, and you want to be healthy, and you want to feel great joy all the time, you can't do that. It's that simple. Well, what if it was worth doing it? Well, fine. Then you're basically saying to somebody, you hurt me so much, I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Okay, fine. Have fun. Because you didn't hurt that person, you hurt yourself. So I'm just asking you to be rational. Don't resist. Now that's hard, isn't it? Especially big things, they're hard to not resist. That's your work. That is your spiritual work. You work on not resisting. Well, I tried to and I didn't. Fine. I'm sorry, I always use the same examples. When you started playing tennis, you didn't hit the ball real well. When you start playing the piano, I don't want to hear. Okay? You learn. How about that? Just like you learn tennis, just like you learn the piano, you learn to let go. First, you have to understand the importance of letting go. There is never a time that you're not better off letting go than not letting go. Because if you don't let go, it stays. Now, letting go doesn't mean you don't deal with things. You just let go first. You let go. Somebody said something, you let go. I'm not storing this inside of me. Now, if I need to deal with something, I'll deal with it. But it won't be as an attempt to make it go away, to push it away. In other words, it's not an attempt to not have to let go. You're capable of letting it go. Why? Because you're the one who's resisting. If you resist, you're going to pay for that. You don't realize that. Why? Because you build this house made out of resistance. This is what I like, what I don't like, who I like and who I don't like, and everything has to be this way, and if I can get it all that way, I'll be okay. In other words, you made a self-concept that says the world has to be a certain way for me to be okay. Of course it does. Because you stored the stuff you don't like. You stored the stuff that will bother you. So this better not happen, this better happen, and you just run. I told you, I started to talk that way. You just run around every day going into the outside world, trying to make happen what you want and not happen what you don't want. That's hard. That creates tension, creates anxiety. You worry. So I'm telling you, the bottom line is you better pay attention to resistance. Does anybody know what I mean by resistance inside? Do you feel resistance inside? You may feel resistance to this talk. I wouldn't blame you, all right? But I'm telling you the truth. If you are going to resist, you're going to pay a price. You will lose friends. You will not have good relations with your parents. If you resisted what happened when you were growing up, it's coming up. It's there. You have trouble going home, all right? If you got married and you got divorced, it happens. It's reality. If you resist, You won't be able to see the same friends. You won't be able to go to the same restaurant, right? That's not healthy. You do not have to do this. Nobody can make you do this. You have the right to sit inside and be a clear being who says, I'm not going to do things that harm myself. And resistance always harms you. So you come down to the basics of open, closed. That's really what I want to talk about. Have you ever closed to somebody? Have you ever closed? What does it feel like? You close. That's resistance. Closing is due to resistance. What closes when you close? Your mind closes and your heart closes. What about open? Your mind opens and your heart opens. And by the way, they do it together. It's very, very rare that your mind is closed. I don't like them. I don't like it. And your heart, doesn't tend to work that way. All right? So if you close, you don't feel love. You don't feel joy. You feel hurt. You feel closed. You closed it in there. That's what resistance does. It locks it inside of you. Your heart closes to protect itself. Your mind closes. I don't want to talk to you. I don't like what you said. I don't want to talk to you. That's closed. Don't go there. I'm begging you. Let go now or fall. Let go now or fall. What does that mean? Please listen. If something happens that disturbs you, I'm not going to say you shouldn't get disturbed. You got some human stuff in there, and you've stored stuff from before. It's going to do something. What do you do right now, right at that moment when it hits something? Let go now or fall. If when it hits, you resist, you push it back down, you're not going to like that person. You're not going to like that restaurant. You're not going to like that situation. You're not going to like that music. You're not going to like all kinds of things. Why? Because you closed around it, and it's going to stay that way. And it takes 1 second to close and very hard to reopen. Have you ever noticed? You can like somebody, you can like them tremendously for years and years. They say one thing to you and you get like that. It's very hard to reopen. It's very hard to bring that love back. And that goes for your spouses and your boyfriends and girlfriends right now. You better learn to not do that. You learn to sit there and say, I can handle anything. That's what I want you to say. There's an affirmation for you. I can handle anything. Why? Because the alternative is ridiculous. The alternative is to get scarred. The alternative is to carry all this junk inside of me, and I got to make the world be the way I want it to be. So when it comes in, just learn to relax. Relax. That's what I found is the highest thing. It comes in, you got this stuff going on in there. What does it mean to resist? To tense and resist. What does it mean to not resist? Relax and breathe. And guess what? It will pass through. Doesn't all go through at once, but at least you took the process in the right direction. Otherwise, if you give it full resistance, you're going to find out it leaves marks in there. Even your closest relationships. One thing I learned, if you can close to anybody, you can close to the person you love. If you know how to close and you let her close, she knows how to close, somebody will do something at some point in your relationship and you will close because you learned how to close. You need to learn how not to close. You need to learn how to stay open. Well, what if what happened insulted me? Stay open. Stay open. Then deal with it. You can still deal with it. You can talk about it, but not as an attempt to protect yourself. That's why the mind is broken. I'm going to tie it all together and we'll close up. The mind is broken because you have stored everything that ever bothered you inside your mind. I'm impressed that your heart is open for one person. Master used to teach, perfect the relationship with one person, then open the heart to everybody. Because the heart learned to open. You need to keep your heart open. It is not worth closing your heart ever. Let's say something happens, you're having a conversation with somebody, and it didn't go so well, and you feel it start to close. Stop right there before you walk away. Don't get out of the car. Don't say anything. Don't just stop right there and ask yourself, do I want this to be who I am, what I'm feeling right now? And then you turn around and you say something nice. Make yourself not go there. Are you capable of doing that? That's what real spiritual growth is. That's why every day of your life, you have an opportunity to free yourself. Because what you're freeing yourself from is yourself. You're freeing yourself from the right to close. He doesn't have the right to close. I gave that up in the early 70s. I said to him, you don't have the right to close because the repercussions of closing are ridiculous. So I don't care. I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm a nice Jewish boy that likes Christ's teachings. There is a line in the Bible where Christ says, if you are having an argument or a disagreement with your neighbor, do not go to bed before you straighten it out. Wow. I mean, that's kind of like let go now or fall. All you have to do is go to bed with that going on inside of you. I'm telling you, the probability of you ever being able to open that person again is reduced significantly. It just gets ingrained inside of you. Don't think it's okay to be like that. It doesn't mean you can't be that way all the time, but you just start working on yourself. That's what's called intent. My intent is not to hold this stuff inside of me. And the best way to do it is right then, right there. I dare you to even stop in the midst of an argument, in the midst of a disagreement, and just realize this is getting in here. No, not on my watch. That's what I want going on inside of you. Not on my watch. I hope this talk helps you realize how damaging it is to store that stuff inside of you. And so what do? You literally stop, you turn around, you say, you know, I really like you and love you a lot, and I'm sorry that we just got to this place. Let's close this out and make believe it didn't happen. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to say that and feel the heart open back up? So it's not there for 20 years. Is it true that it will be there for a long time? You live in there. Are you conscious enough to see the damage that it does to close around something? Don't do it. So that's the essence of spirituality. Well, we just talked about, you can get all this techniques and all these things. There's only one technique. I just told it to you. Don't close. Don't close. Don't ever close. Don't ever close. But from an open point of view, you can deal with things. You should deal with things. There's stuff that needs to be dealt with, but not as an attempt to protect myself. I don't need to protect myself. The act of protecting myself ruins me. It locks stuff inside of me that is hard to get out. So I don't want to do it. How about you? Would you rather be open or closed? I said to you, every one of you are capable of feeling absolute love. I'm saying you should be able to wave your hand across the front of your heart and have ecstasy pour through your being anytime you want. Can you do that? The reason you can't is because you're closed. The reason you can't is because you stored all this garbage in there and it won't open. It won't open enough. What's really opening is your chakras. You're opening your entire energy system. It's available to you, every one of you. It's not a matter of tolerating and being good enough and finding one little place that you're comfortable and then fighting to keep it that way. What, are you kidding me? You should be comfortable with the whole universe. When I talk about 2 trillion galaxies, I should make you bliss out. You mean I don't have to worry about anything? That's right. Why do I keep telling you that 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun? The sun, that's one of 300 billion stars. Because nothing matters. Give me a break. Oh my God, I had spinach in my tooth. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. What, are you crazy? You're sitting on a planet that's so tiny, spinning around one star, and there's 300 billion stars, and there's 2 trillion galaxies. What are you doing? Why do you want to live like that? Do you want to live like that? Would you rather have fun? Oh boy, I had spinach in my tooth. Have fun. There are not conditions that should have to happen for you to have fun. You should just have fun. You're sitting on a planet. It's a really nice planet, isn't it? Go to Mars, see what it's like. There's sand. Go to Jupiter. You'll fall through. It's just gas. And you got this beautiful planet, and you suffer. There is no reason to suffer except that you are resisting. And that builds suffering inside of you. So I'll leave you with that one thought that I just don't understand how people don't get it. If you store disturbance inside of you, you're going to be disturbed. And maybe you are. Well, now we know how not to do that. Good. Will you work on these things? I care for you. You're a beautiful being. I know what you're capable of. You're capable of being a being of pure light, bringing joy and love and openness into the world and letting everybody see how beautiful it can be because you're that beautiful. Jai Gurudev.